Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the latest news of the day. Very recently in Washington, there was this NATO meeting in which all, 32 members of NATO were present and they were celebrating their anniversary. And there was a lot of talk about how China is helping Russia in this Russia-Ukraine war. And the West has been accusing China of doing it for a very long time. And China has been helping Russia because Russia needs help in that sense that while Russia has a weapons manufacturing ecosystem, in the war, there is a constant supply of ammunition that is required. Because the expenditure of ammunition is so much. According to certain estimates, Russia is firing almost 10,000 artillery shells every single day. That turns out to be approximately 300,000 artillery shells every month. And this has been going on continuously for 2 years now. You can imagine the number of, the sheer logistics of this exercise across a 1,000 kilometer front. The sheer logistics of this exercise is mind-numbing. So, Russia will speak to North Korea, but nobody can say anything to North Korea because they are anyway isolated. It's called the Hermit Kingdom, it's isolated. Then Russia will speak to various other countries and Russia will speak to Iran, they'll speak to Vietnam, they'll speak to all the countries like this and attempt to get artillery shells from wherever they can. But here is the catch. China has been helping Russia militarily. It's not just the buying of oil because so is India, so are a couple of other countries and that is one part. But when you help a country militarily, pummel the other country, then it raises hackles of everybody around and obviously NATO is justifiably concerned because Russia is pushing hard. Now, in this entire thing, the China factor is extremely prominent and they feel, that is the NATO, they feel that China is standing firmly behind Russia, which is why Russia simply refuses to give in. Now, here are some notes that I have and they're saying that China is providing substantial support to Russia's defense industry, including dual-use materials, drone technology, missile technology, and cyber activities against NATO states. So actually this hacking and cyber warfare China is doing on behalf of Russia or helping Russia do it. Allegations suggest China's support is critical in maintaining Russia's military capabilities amidst sanctions. So Russia is in the midst of massive Western sanctions, but China shares a border with Russia and China is saying, okay, great, no problem, we'll help you. Because China is trying to create a front against the West. And they cannot have a better ally than Russia because Russia is massive. It is the largest, in terms of geography, it is the largest country on earth. It is the largest country on earth and it touches China. They share a common border. So it suits China just fine. Also, the US estimates that 70% of the machine tools and 90% of the microelectronics Russia imports now come from China. So again, I repeat, 70% of the machine tools and 90% of the microelectronics that Russia has today, they actually come from China. But I don't think Russia is to blame. I think the West is also to blame because the way West reacted when Russia invaded Ukraine. Now the invasion of Ukraine was wrong. Nobody is supporting it. But the problem is when you try to isolate a country like Russia and you think that just because of sanctions, Russia will break and bend. That is not likely to happen. In the early 90s when the USSR broke into 15 countries, that was a separate case, that was a separate time altogether. I would rather that the West look at Iran if they really want to learn historical lessons. Since 1979, it's almost 40 years, Iran has been under severe sanctions. 52, 53 years. Iran has been, or 42, 43 years, I beg your pardon. Iran has been under severe sanctions. All right? And they have sort of restricted Iran from every single thing. You can't do dollar trade and you can't send things and you can't bring things into Iran. And this entire economy they've tried to crush. Though Iran is very rich as far as oil and gas is concerned. But the West has absolutely restricted Iran. Now, ladies and gentlemen, has Iran bent to America's will? Has Iran given up? No. Rather, Iran has started using proxies all over and has created a security nightmare in the Middle East. Sanctions help to some extent, but the Americans and especially the West, they think of sanctions as the ultimate silver bullet. You know, you fire sanctions and your enemy comes to his knees. That's not going to happen in case of Russia. Now, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi rejects NATO's accusations as groundless and fabricated disinformation. So China is saying that what you're saying about China helping Russia is absolutely wrong. We disagree with you. We condemn what you say. Also, China insists on its neutrality in the conflict and portrays itself as a force for peace and stability. Now, this is difficult to believe because China stands for neither peace nor stability. China is a troublemaker everywhere. But this is what the Chinese officially say, that, you know, we are neutral and we don't want conflict and we want peace, etc. So, for academic purposes, the world has no choice but to take China at its face value. Wang Yi calls for NATO to respect China's political system and sovereignty, urging them to refrain from provoking confrontation. So this is China trying to threaten the rest of the world, that don't provoke us, there could be a confrontation. China is not saying that if you point fingers at us, we will also accuse you. No. China is saying that China is hinting at kinetic action. There could be a skirmish, there could be a war. This is what China is saying time and again. US President Joe Biden hints at potential economic consequences for China if it continues to support Russia militarily. European countries consider curtailing investments in China amid escalating tensions. Now, all this, you know, Joe Biden saying that economic consequences. What economic consequences? The body that is guilty, right, in the rise of China is not just the government of America, it is Wall Street. It is Wall Street's greed for cheap microwaves and cheap Nike shoes that led to the transfer of technology to China. Today, China is the second richest country in the world. China was dirt poor 50 years back, 60 years back, 70 years back. China had no money. There was starvation in China. People were dying of hunger. Today, China is the second richest country. How did this miracle come about? This is all American money. This is all European money, you know. They are the people who said, hey, China has a lot of poor people and these guys are really great at making stuff. So let us say a washing machine cost let us say $2,000 in America. The same washing machine can be made in China for $500. Now, isn't that great? At 25% of the cost. I'm just giving you estimates. I don't know how much a washing machine costs in America and in China, but I'm just saying that this is what they believed. Even Europe, the top brands of Europe are today manufactured in China. They are not manufactured in Europe, hardly. You have Adidas, which is a German brand. You have Hugo Boss, which is a German brand. You have BMW, which is a German brand. You have Mercedes, which is a German brand. You have Aston Martin. You have Rolls-Royce. Sure, they have factories in Germany and in the UK. Of course they do. But the majority of these cars are made in China. The world's biggest Tesla factory is not in the United States of America, it's in China. China knows that China holds the key. China holds the key to global supply chains. China knows that. It is not that China has a fantastic military. The US military is far, far more capable, far, far more well equipped than China. They have a budget that is almost 3-4 times the size of China. China can't face off with America militarily. But China knows that China, if push comes to shove, can switch off global supply chains. And this is what scares the West. The only thing the West can do now is get together and say that we need to get out of China as early as possible and tell the companies, call for a meeting of all the CEOs and say that, hey, we're giving you 5 years. Find alternative places. Ideally, come back to the mother country or go somewhere else. Move out of China slowly and slowly. Apple has already started doing it, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to do that because the more you manufacture in China, the more you feed into the Communist Party's war machinery. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you like this video? And if you did, press the like button. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another fresh video. Till then, Jai Hind.